Hey everyone, what's going on? Hope you're having a nice Dead by Daylight. I know I sure am. And today I want to just sit down and talk about how I felt about DbD this past year, what I'm looking forward to in 2023 for Dead by Daylight. How was Dead by Daylight doing in 2022? What does the game need to improve on? What did it do right? I just want to talk about everything. This is going to be sort of an overview video of a lot of things because I'm actually going to go in depth with some of these subjects in future videos, kind of like a multi-part thing. So this part, I'm just going to be going over everything kind of loosely and overall giving my opinion on it, but we're going to go mega in depth in some future videos, kind of breaking a lot of this stuff down. So overall, Dead by Daylight in 2022, if I had to give an overall opinion, I'd say pretty good. I think 2022 was a very constructive year for DbD. I think a lot kind of got done. I think behavior delivered on a lot, which was nice. I definitely think it's been the best year of DbD since I started playing kind of back in 2020. I started basically at the beginning of 2020. I really started at the end of 2019, but I don't really count that. It was like the ass end of 2019. So we started at the beginning of 2020. And this has been the best year for DbD in my opinion. A lot of improvements, a lot of really nice improvements, a lot of good content, some not good content, but we'll get into that. But overall, it was very, very nice. To start with the overall content chapter releases, we had 4 of them. We had the Ring chapter, we had the Dredge chapter, we had Resident Evil Part 2, and we had the Night. Overall, I think there were 3 for 4 on this one. I think 3 out of 4 of these chapters were pretty good, with one of them not being good, that being the Night. I don't think the Night is very good, unfortunately. In terms of like delivering something that was healthy and good for the game, I don't think the Night really delivered on that, but we'll touch on that in like a second. But overall, starting with the Ring chapter, Sadako. No map for this chapter. This was just a killer and a survivor. I like this chapter a lot. I think some people were kind of lukewarm on it, especially since they announced it so early out. They like announced it like months beforehand for whatever reason. I don't know why. And then it got here, and then people kind of were just like, eh, whatever. But I don't know. I liked it a lot. I'm kind of biased. I'm a big Ring fan. I love Sadako. I think she's super cool, and I think behavior really delivered on kind of portraying her, interpreting her in game. And the content we got with it was pretty cool. I think she's a great killer. I don't think she's overpowered or unbalanced by any means. She does have some pretty crazy add-ons that I think should be looked at, like iridescent videotape. And I actually think her base power should be buffed up a little bit. Right now, there's like this big range of Sadako. You know, Sadako can either be kind of on the weaker end of things. She can kind of just be like kind of below average or okay. Or if she's running like specific add-ons and specific setups, she can actually be extremely oppressive and like fucking crazy. I think they need to bring that in a little bit. You know, that kind of top end and low end are really far apart. They need to bring that together because she's got some really, really crazy add-ons actually. But otherwise, base Sadako is pretty decent. Like I said, some buffs, but we'll touch on that in another video. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to go over things in detail. But overall, nice. Yoichi as a survivor was very cool. All the perks that came with this chapter were all pretty good. I don't think there were like any really standout stinkers. Maybe Dark Theory. Dark Theory probably could use a buff for being a boon and only giving like 2% movement speed. Not really worth the time investment of booning something, especially when you're competing with like other boons like Shadow Step and Circle of Healing. But otherwise, I think perks overall were very good. I mean, one of them is a meta perk right now, Call It Brine. Call It Brine was always kind of like on people's radar, and now I think the meta's kind of evolved to be very favorable to it. We'll touch on that in a second, how healthy that is for the game. But I think Call of Brine by itself, let's say that, is a fairly balanced perk and is totally fine. All the perks here are good and fun to use. After that, we had the Dredge chapter, which did come with a map. It was like the first chapter in a... Oh, no. Actually, never mind. Not the first chapter. The artist had her map. I always forget that. I try to forget Iria Cruz because I don't want it in my memory ever, because that map sucks. But speaking of shitty maps, the Dredge came with a map that was also very shitty, unfortunately. Came with the Garden of Joy, probably one of the worst maps in the game, actually, balance-wise. But we will talk about maps a little bit later. But yeah, not a great map balance-wise. The Dredge themselves, though, the Dredge and Hattie, first of all, this came out one of my favorite survivors ever. I love Hattie. She's wonderful. Please release some fucking cosmetics for her behavior. Oh my god. I'm glad people are seeing this, though, and, you know, telling behavior to release some cosmetics for her because she needs them. But otherwise, quality-wise, the Dredge, I think, was pretty cool. I think people kind of like, there was this whole, like, Dredge versus Sadako thing when he first came out. Everyone was like, oh my god, they just released better Sadako. Why would they do that? He's not better Sadako. He's not. Dredge is a very different killer, in my opinion, from playstyle. I always thought that. The moment I played Dredge, I was like, this dude is, like, so different from Sadako in a lot of ways. But in terms of health, Dredge, I think people dislike the Dredge for some reason. I think it kind of relates to Nightfall. Maybe Nightfall could be just like a little bit brighter right now. Yeah, I will agree. Nightfall is kind of like, I understand it's supposed to be dark, but also it's like super fucking, I don't know. There's something about it that's almost like, that's like sickening in some way. That's like when you get in like the Nightfall mode, you get like this weird like motion sickness. At least I do. I don't know if it's like sickness, but I'm just like super fucking confused. And I understand some people are saying, oh, well, that's the point. I don't know, man. Like, I think the player base has kind of made it very clear that low visibility is not something that actually interests people in terms of like, in terms of gameplay, as like an actual element of gameplay. But regardless, I think his power is super cool. The teleporting to lockers is awesome. It feels like they made like a more balanced version of Nurse's power, especially when you're in Nightfall. You can teleport forward, and if the survivor doesn't actually like play it correctly, you can get a hit by teleporting forward. It's super cool. You can use it for mobility. The little shadow thing you can leave behind, the Remnant is what it's called, also very cool. And I honestly think there's a lot more counterplay to that than people actually give it credit for. A lot of people kind of bundled Dredge in with like this new brand of anti-loop killers like the Knight and the Artist, but I don't think he's really all that, you know, all that there. I think he's not. There's actually quite a bit of counterplay to the Remnant if you can kind of know what you're doing. That being said, it's still not the greatest. He probably could use a couple improvements. I think they just need to tweak the Dredge a little bit. But otherwise, I think he's fine if he was left as is. Awesome killer. Love his design. Really unique stuff. In terms of perks, all the perks that came with this chapter, I don't think there's any real stinkers. Again, they've been kind of good recently. If people think back to, like, Deathslinger and Pyramid Head's chapter, like, there were some real fucking stinker perks in those chapters. I don't know if you remember, but, and even now still, like, Pyramid Head, his perks, like, for the most part, are just, like, downright useless, dude. Fucking forced penance, like, are you for real? Behavior's been good about, I think, recently, about not releasing just perks that are straight up, like, dog shit, you know? Like, they've been good about that. So I think most of the perks in this chapter are pretty good. I don't think there's really, like, any crazy standout meta ones, but they're all very nice. I think Hattie's perks are actually really good. I think people that haven't really tried Hattie's perks enough, but I think a lot of them are really cool. Residual Manifest is nice. Inner Focus, I think it's called Inner Focus, is also really sick. Is honestly probably one of the best information perks in the game, actually, for Survivor, maybe next to like Bond or something. And the Overzealous is kind of nice. It's very situational, but I've seen a lot of like Plaything Penamento builds recently that like I honestly wish I was running Overzealous. Maybe I will, because that's a lot of gen speed you can get off of cleansing a totem, and with the right build, you could definitely abuse that in some way. Moving on, we got Resident Evil Part 2. Resident Evil chapter was great. I don't think many people disagree with that. I think it was a great chapter. They reworked RPD, and they actually did a good job with it. I think the RPD wings, East and West Wing, are both very good. They're much easier to navigate, much easier to handle from both sides of things. There's some small issues, but compared to some of the other maps we have in the game currently, I honestly think that RPD was overall pretty much fixed. It feels like actually kind of one of the more fun indoor maps to play on now. I think there's like actual gameplay to it, unlike most other indoor maps. But that's all good. I'm glad they did that. In terms of killer, we got 2 survivors, 1 killer. Albert Wesker, cool killer. I love him. He's awesome. I don't play him as much as I probably should. There was a bit when I was playing him for a while, but I've kind of stopped now. He's a cool killer. He's got high mobility, got a lot of chase potential. Doesn't feel too oppressive. There's plenty of ways to counterplay him and chase from both sides, survivor side, and there's plenty of things you can do as Mr. Wesker. None of his add-ons are really over the top. I do think maybe... let me think. Nah, you know what? I don't know. None of his add-ons are really over the top. Nothing's like OP, I don't think. I see that one Wesker add-on, the eerie one that makes you infected from the start. I see that one a lot, and that one can be kind of annoying, especially for the fact that it exposes you as you're like filling up your infection, which I don't know why it does that. It feels like a very like weird thing to throw onto it, but I guess it kind of makes sense. But otherwise, I don't know. He's a good killer. Released with quite a few bugs, but I think they've ironed those out now. There's some janky hit grabs you get every now and then still when you're playing against Wesker, but I think that's more like latency and connection shit. Not necessarily the killer's fault, more like the system he's in is not good for really precise hitboxes. Survivors were cool. You know, Ada Wong is awesome. I love Resident Evil. She's one of my favorite characters. Rebecca Chambers, not as familiar with Rebecca Chambers actually in terms of Resident Evil. I haven't played the game she's from, or either of the games she's from. But she's cool too. She seems awesome. Perks, honestly, pretty good perks from this chapter. Maybe like one stinker. I think low profile fucking blows, dude. Like, I don't know why they made this perk that activates for one section of the game and then put a timer on it and then didn't even make it like that good. I don't know. Low profile is like, I just said, I was just commending behavior for not releasing stinker perks for which they have gotten better at. But there is one stinker perk this year, I think, and I think it's low profile. Low profile just like sucks, dude. Like I can't even like think of like a reason you'd even want to run this. You know, like a last survivor kind of build, but I don't know. It's not even like really that good at doing that. But then again, I haven't really tried it. I haven't played it. I just kind of looked at it and I was like, wow, it activates for one section of the game, and it's timed. It's not even permanent. I don't care about that. Otherwise, most of the perks are really good. Hyper Focus is an awesome perk. I love Hyper Focus so much. Super cool design. I think there were people out there that were thinking it was OP for a while, but I think it was just the circumstances to which it was released. Literally everyone was playing against Wesker, who has a fucking 40-meter terror radius, and people were running like the stressing on him with like a huge terror radius on like small maps. Like RPD is kind of, you know, it's big in the sense that it's multi-layered, but it's not actually like that wide of a map. And you were just constantly getting like stakeout stacks, and like Hyper Focus was going crazy. I don't think Hyper Focus is actually that big of an issue. I think it's like it released alongside the perfect killer to run that combo of Hyper Focus stakeout. Still a very good combo, but I don't think it's overpowered. I think people are kind of realizing that the kind of conversation for Hyper Focus being OP's kind of died down a little bit, which is nice. Because otherwise, it's an awesome perk. I wanted them to do more perks like this. It makes doing gens actually kind of fun. And yeah, Wesker's perks were all decent too. I don't think he really had any cool standouts that really were over the top. I'm kind of sad that the one vaulting perk doesn't work with special vaults, but it's whatever. What are you gonna do? After Resident Evil Part 2, we had the Night. The Night was kind of the only bad chapter, in my opinion. The Night's kind of shitty. The map is kind of like whatever. The map's got some issues. The map had some major issues on launch. It was bugged. The map's got some issues. The killer is just, oh man. It is crazy to me that behavior, they've done this in the past. I think they've done this in the past once with the Trickster. I've talked about it on my channel briefly, but I was super disappointed with Trickster's release. Because they did it with the Night. It's the same deal. They had a very unique killer in their hands. They had the potential for a really unique killer. All they needed to do was balance out some of the kinks that was preventing them from committing to like a certain play style. In this case, the Knight, I feel like, should have been a very information-heavy killer, kind of using his dudes to scout around the map, kind of setting up these patrols, very map control-oriented. But the fucking thing shows up. Survivors can just see the little green ball. It's like, that doesn't do anything. Survivors know that this shit's happening. So he's kind of just defaulted to this anti-loop, very boring anti-loop playstyle. And behavior, you know, in their infinite wisdom, something they're still not good at is actually making changes to a killer post-release that are like, what is the word I'm looking for here? Making changes that are, I don't know, they should be using a scalpel for this shit, and they're using a fucking axe, dude. They're like coming at it with an axe, fucking chopping shit up, and like they're just throwing like random numbers at a killer. They're just like, we don't know what to do with this killer, so make him better in chase. Just throw some random shit at the killer. They just decided to make them better at chase. So I don't know, Knight's not good. This kind of sucks because he's awesome aesthetic, really great stuff from the art team. Obviously, art team always knocks it out of the park, and this especially very cool, like dark fantasy aesthetic. Just the most boring power ever, dude. Just really, again, just dropping the ball. I'm feeling very much like how I felt with the Trickster, because I was very excited for Trickster, only for them to drop the ball and not make the Trickster that unique, and instead make him just an annoying piece of shit in chase. Same deal here with the Knight. But the perks were okay. Perks are actually pretty cool. I like a lot of the perks. There's a lot of really cool ideas with the perks. Vittorio especially has got some really cool perks. Potential energy. I still think that perk needs a bit of tweaking for it to really, really be useful. I think there's just, I don't know, it's the risk versus reward and time investment is just all over the place right now with that perk. But I guess it's fine. Some people are doing fine things with it, I guess. I've heard. Fogwise is awesome. I love Fogwise. And the Gambit one, the increased speed for chase, could be pretty good in a really like setup build for it. For the Knight, he's got some cool perks. I like the ideas again behind his perks. Lots of unique stuff with Nowhere to Hide. Very cool. Another gen kicking perk. There was what is it? Face the Darkness is the screamy one. I like that one. Maybe it's a little too good on certain killers. I've heard and I've seen, you know, it's like on Pinhead it can be a little ridiculous. But otherwise, some really cool perks overall. This year was, again, very good for the perks. I like it, and it was decent for the killers outside of the Knight. Already kind of talked about this perks-wise, though. We had that meta shakeup this year. The meta shakeup was pretty good. I liked it. I liked how they kind of tackled a lot of perks at once, but I feel like the game needs more. The game, at the current moment, and I'm going to talk about this more in a different video, but at the current moment, they've stretched the current mechanics of the game so thin in terms of content, in terms of what they're able to do. I mean, the meta shakeup we got was effectively just switching out the perks that were used for each side for perks that basically do the same thing. On the killer side of things, their regression is still the most important thing in the game. On the survivor side of things, let's be real, most of the perks have kind of stayed the same. Swap out DS with Off the Record, and that's it. Maybe swap out Dead Hard with Sprint Burst, and there you go. That's it. Like, it's still the same shit. It's just different flavors of the same shit. And I think what most people were hoping for was like a true meta shakeup, something really different. But behavior is stretching the mechanics of the game so thin at the current moment that I really don't think we'd ever see like a huge meta shakeup unless behavior added a like secondary objective to the game or some kind of big mechanic that actually changed the flow of the game drastically. And we'll talk about that more in a different video because that's a subject you really got to dig in on. But that's like the basis, the overview of it is I think behavior needs to add some kind of big, you know, mechanic that changes the way the game is played. Otherwise, none of this shit's going to matter. It's all going to be like the same meta regardless. But they did have a good attempt. There was a lot of great stuff, a lot of great core killer buffs. The gen speed nerf. Personally, I wish they would have done something a bit more intelligent than or not intelligent, a bit more, I guess, graceful than just a flat nerf to gen speeds. But you live with what you get. But regardless, it was pretty good. I really would like to see them do this again. You know, more, not like once per however long DbD has been out. I'd love to see them do something like this, like honestly, once per year to really shake things up. But yeah, it was good stuff by them. Overall, a lot of the changes were very good. In terms of overall game balance, the game is very balanced in terms of in my opinion, I think the game is at the best balanced state it's been in, but there's still a lot of issues. Biggest of all being maps. People always talk about it. Maps just right now are horribly designed. I mean, there are so many bad maps. And I'm not just saying from like a killer's perspective, I'm saying like from all perspectives. Like there are just shitty maps for both sides. Terrible killer maps, terrible survivor maps. I hesitate, like I am struggling to even think. I think now I struggle to even think of one map I don't have a problem with in some way. It's like Coal Tower, Father Campbell's Chapel. That's it. Even one of my favorite maps, I love the Disturbed Ward, but I have to admit that map's got some problems. The main building can be a little ridiculous. They gotta rework the maps, dude. Like it's one of the biggest balance issues in the entire game, and there's no way around it really. It's just what it is. They need to come at it and really break it down. Biggest thing, I think, breakable walls. Look, honestly, I think breakable walls, they should either just scrap the entire mechanic or actually do something interesting with it. We've had breakable walls for about 2 years now, and they have not added anything to the game, in my opinion. They've made the game more frustrating. It's given the devs an excuse to add, like kind of broken setups into the game with the idea that the killer can get rid of it, but also that's not interesting from either side, because you have this setup that you have to basically do a thing to do as killer. You have this shit you got to do as killer to just make the map playable. And on the survivor side of things, you have this good window that they're balancing the map around. That they're like, oh yeah, we put a good window here that's really good, and it is really strong until the killer breaks the wall, and then it's not as good anymore. And then you have the rest of the map that's kind of balanced around, or usually balanced around the idea that there's a really good window there. I don't know, breakable walls, dude. They either got to do something with the mechanic that actually makes it interesting. Make it, I don't know, survivors can, the breakable walls start broken and survivors can set them up is really what it probably should be. Or something like that. Or I don't know, dude, just scrap the mechanic. I mean, they've already kind of like quasi-scrapped the mechanic, basically. Like, if you compare the number of breakable walls on the first 2 maps released when they released the mechanic, that being Dead Dog Saloon and Midwich, to literally the breakable walls on any other map past that point, the map reworks and shit, it's just like some maps don't even have breakable walls. Like, it's just, they can't even put them anywhere, or they don't even bother putting them anywhere. It's a stupid mechanic. I think most people agree with that. And again, like I said, they should either just get rid of it entirely, just cut their losses on it, say that it just wasn't what they wanted it to be, or come back at it and try to make it interesting. Items. Here's something that needs to be balanced. Items. And I'm not just saying like medkits should get nerfed. I'm saying like items should be made interesting. Medkits definitely need some kind of nerf. Medkits are kind of ridiculous right now. But also, there's no dynamic to items. I mean, items are like, as a survivor, you know what the best choice is. It's a medkit. You're taking a medkit basically every time. Maybe if you're in a SWIF, you can kind of coordinate some different things, like a toolbox here and there. Maybe a flashlight if you're really getting spicy. But medkit's just the most useful. And I don't know, man. I think items should be made way more unique and more awesome and more creative, and give more. I mean, essentially taking an item as survivor, that's like your power. That's like the only thing that like you can bring outside of perks that actually makes your gameplay a little more unique. And it'd be awesome if items kind of augmented gameplay a little bit more. That's like something that's super crazy off the wall, but I don't know. I think all the items in the game need some kind of rework. Right now they're kind of boring. They're just kind of samey. Not samey, but like maps and keys are fucking useless basically. Medkits are very clearly the best option. Toolboxes are pretty decent, and flashlights are, the most fun to use, but they're not exactly that practical. So I think behavior definitely needs to look at items a little bit and balance those out. I have perks listed here as something I want to talk about, but I think we talked about the perks enough, actually. So I'm not going to go too in detail with any more like the perk balance of the game. We already just talked about that. Last thing I want to talk about, which I've actually already recorded a video on. I recorded this video first, And then I decided I'm gonna make a whole video on like the state of DbD in 2023, the grind and the monetization in the game. The grind got improved. They actually did that. The grind is so much better. I love them for that. That's awesome. The grind in the game is a lot better. Thank you, behavior. Blood points actually get you something. The reduction of the cost and incentives and all the things that have come together. The new prestige system. The grind in the game. Oh, sorry, I'm yawning. Oh, the grind in the game has been vastly improved. Honestly, I don't think they need to even look at it anymore. It's good. I think the only thing they need to do is make it so that tapping, like single clicking or single button pressing on a node in the blood web just gets that node. We don't need the hold down thing anymore. It's just ridiculous. It takes a while to spend a lot of blood points in a blood web. Just make it so you just gotta tap, just gotta click on it and it gets it for you. No need to sit there and have to hold the button. It feels like weird now. And the monetization in the game. This is something I made a video on that I just said I just made a video on this. I think it needs to be improved a little bit. I'm not talking about like cosmetics and all that shit. I'm talking about like unlocking content in game via like in-game currency, shit like that. Like I said, I'm gonna save this for the video I just recorded. But TLDR, behavior should like make some chapters, old ass chapters free that like came out when the game was released. And also like some of these older chapters should have like a price reduction in Eerie shards because it's old content. Also, the fact that survivors and killers are priced the same, Eerie shard wise, is very weird. There's a lot of weird stuff with the monetization in this game that I think they need to look at and improve to just make the game a little healthier. I don't know. They're probably making most of their money off of cosmetics anyways. But regardless, overall, DbD in 2022, pretty good. Pretty good. I'm excited for DbD in 2023. I think there's a lot of opportunities to even turn the game around even more in 2023, but it's up to them. It's up to what they want to do. Only they know what's in the store. They probably got this shit planned months in advance. So I wish them the best with it. We've had a nice year with DbD. I'm going to be talking more about these subjects in separate videos. We're going to get nitty, we're going to get gritty, and we're going to get aggressive with it. But otherwise, until I see you in the next video, I hope you have a good day. Remember to like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel. It supports me, encourages me. And until next time, I'll see you later.